Oh my god, it's screen share all the way. I said it correctly the first time without straining. I didn't even have to like pinch myself or punch myself or anything like that.
Were you practicing in your head?
No, I should have. I should have practiced in front of the mirror. Screen share all the way. Screen share all the way. Screen share all the... No. So I am so excited that we are talking about the Muppet Christmas Carol. This has been a blind spot in my viewing catalog, and I am so happy that we're talking about this today.
Me too.
Muppet Christmas Carol.
I'd never seen the full thing. I'd seen bits and pieces, but I was a little old and cynical for it when it came out, like in somewhere in the teen years, I think, or the tween years or something. It's like, the Muppets is kid stuff, and then
you're too old for them.
Yeah, once I grew up and was wizened that the Muppets is for everyone, I've turned back around.
Hell yeah! So this was your pick, right, Keith?
This was our pick, all of us. This is all of us.
Oh yeah, this is the group pick. Yeah,
yes.
we were done with the individual picks, and now we moved on to the...
Are you professional or not?
Yeah, so this is the second group picks. This is the final pick of our screen share all the way. No.
What don't you fucking understand?
Yeah, we got one more coming.
Well, you got the name right
next
tonight,
week.
But everything else...
Everything else, yeah. Hey,
fuck's sake, man, you're amateur.
Behind the scenes, we're recording this at
me
night.
too.
So I'm like 5 seconds behind.
Yeah, just don't trust anything this man says, dear audience.
Yeah, never. Well, I mean, that's probably a good rule of thumb in general.
It's definitely a good rule of thumb. We're also recording on our off day, like a day that we don't normally record, so we are a little behind, and
everything feels different.
Yeah, it's a little discombobulated.
We're recording this where it's dark out. It's not bright out like it usually is.
What are these strange feelings that there's hair where there wasn't hair before?
Oh, wait.
Oh my god.
I feel strange, but also good.
Wait, we just veered wildly off course again. And I'm going to bring us back, and I'm going to talk about my involvement with the Muppets. And I will say that I was conflating this movie with Muppet Christmas Special.
Same.
Because my whole life, I thought that this was the movie that I was watching when I was like 5 years old, and Santa showed up at my house. Like, Santa literally showed up at my house and gave me a present and made me into this insufferable little child for the rest of my life, where I was convinced that Santa existed.
You're a child? Right now, you're a child?
I am. I was convinced that
You're
Santa
an insufferable
existed.
child.
Far beyond what normal children would have, bought into that.
So you believed in the power of Christmas.
Uh-huh. And I once told a little boy that was telling me that Santa wasn't real, that if he was a better behaved child, maybe Santa would visit him. And
Wow.
I was like, I did. I totally and now I felt bad about it as an adult, because I did. I was just like, well, if you were a better behaved kid, then Santa would come and visit you, but you're a bad kid, so he doesn't come and visit you, and that's your fault.
Well,
maybe if you got your
shit
you're
together.
Not
wrong. Yeah, maybe if you paid attention in school and didn't fuck off all the time, maybe Santa would be visiting you.
The worst part is this kid was like a goody two shoes. Like, he was not a bad kid.
Of course not.
So I was just like giving children complexes.
It's funnier that way.
Yeah, I was out there giving my peers complexes.
And nowadays, you're not that big of a fan of Christmas as you used to be.
I'm not, no.
So what happened? Who hurt you? Talk to Dr. Kelly. What happened? How does that make you feel that you used to believe in the power of Christmas and now you're a bah humbug?
Yeah, I think it was retail. I think retail hurt me.
I think anybody that's worked retail that could hear this immediately goes,
Yeah, 16 years in retail. That'll do it.
Everyone I know who works or has worked in retail treats Christmas like the gathering on the battlements of the hordes of orcs approaching. It's like, here it comes. It's coming now, any day now. Prepare yourself.
Yeah, it is definitely better now that I've been out of retail for 10 years than it was when I was in retail. Like, I don't have such an absolute, oh God, are we done with it yet? Can it just be over? But yeah, retail did it. Retail killed me.
So maybe the Muppets can be the connecting tissue to bring you back into the warm bosom of Santa Claus's hug.
Maybe it's the Muppets all around.
It's a Christmas miracle.
It's a Christmas miracle. You are Scrooge, just without all the money.
Right. It is, yes. Can I be Scrooge with the money? I'd really much rather be Scrooge with the money.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's something to be said. This is kind of like when we watched Prince of Egypt and we were watching during an ongoing genocide. And now we are discussing a capitalist CEO of a corporation that is scared to become a decent fucking human being because he sees all the lives that he's ruining. But at least in A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens, Sir Dickens, didn't kill Scrooge.
I like the modern version better. You just get one visit from the ghost of Christmas past, and it's over.
Yeah, that's just one ghost in that story.
I'd say it's the ghost of Christmas present. It's very much Christmas present coming to see you.
Yeah, I mean, it's both. I guess it's past and present, kind of rolled into one.
And obviously, for those that aren't aware, we're talking about the CEO shooting of, what was it, is it Brian Thompson or something like that?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't matter.
Hey there, Luigi, what's it like in New York City? I know when you get to prison, you got something planned for Diddy. Yes, you do. You're my little vigilante boo, my Italy dude.
I saw this tweet going around that was totally fitting considering we're reviewing A Christmas Carol today, and it was something along the lines of Luigi Mangione or whatever his name is stood up against the hoarding capitalist, and the working class person that turned him in didn't even get paid the ransom money because the capitalist environment that he's protecting found a way to screw him over too out of whatever little money he got.
It was her. She was a woman.
Well, there you go. And it's straight out of, well, because I saw two different stories. One was a woman in the store and the other one was an older white man. They had a picture of him and it was like, oh God, why are you putting his picture on the internet? But either way, like the fact that this happened where a CEO is accosted by a quote unquote member of the working class and all this death and mayhem exists out of it. And then the person that turned him in gets screwed over by the same class. Somebody was like, Charles Dickens could have rose from his grave and written this today.
The best
summary. This is better than some stories you'll write about this stuff.
My favorite summary is that the Christmas Carol is the heartwarming tale that the insanely wealthy need to be supernaturally terrorized into sharing their wealth.
Yeah, and the funny thing is you can tell it's a fantasy because even though he's visited by 3 ghosts that explain all the ills that he's putting on people, he changes his mind. That's the fantasy part. Because as far as I can tell, I don't see any... I don't know. We don't want to rail too much. It's kind of hard to talk about Christmas Carol without talking about capitalism because I don't know, Christmas fans everywhere, God bless your hearts that you just take this as just maybe just a surface level story. But even on the surface, it's all about capitalism kills people, or at least this capitalist was killing people. Maybe a capitalist exists that doesn't do this kind of shit, but they don't do very well in the capitalism market if they're not fucking over their neighbors because that's how the market works. But
hey there, Luigi, if they seat me on the jury, promise I'll get you off easy. You could buy all the McFlurries that you like. First let me get you a disguise, next time you want fries.
Let's talk about some good fun stuff, which is the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yeah, with Gonzo.
That right from the opening credits, the fucking the great Gonzo as Charles Dickens I laughed out loud.
So that tells me, by the transitive properties of quality, that Charles Dickens is a chicken fucker.
Fucks chickens.
Yeah. Yes.
Which they make very clear in this movie repeatedly.
Dude,
I mean, and I'm not saying any quotes about Charles Dickens himself. I'm just saying what the Muppets are telling me. They're telling me that Charles Dickens fucks chickens.
This is jumping ahead, but since we're already talking about it, I wrote this note because this flashed in my mind. Gonzo is so prolific at fucking chickens that he gets flung into a random chicken while being dragged through the woods, and he knows her name.
Yeah.
He says,
and he apologizes to her. Yeah.
Sorry, Louise, or whatever. Yeah.
So, I mean, and we'll come back to it several times, but it's like, when we were watching the Muppet movie, there were scenes where it was like, wait, is that what they're saying? And then by the end, we came to the conclusion, oh, they're definitely saying that. In this one, it's an ongoing joke now. They're calling back to the fact that, okay, you remember how Gonzo fucks chickens? Well, this is something that happens when you're a chicken fucker and you're really famous and well known. All the chickens know you because you fucked them all. Like, God
Now
damn.
I feel like we have to watch Muppets from Space at some point because it's a
Oh, I'm
God,
sure I guarantee you there's chicken fucking somewhere in there. Not, Muppets is just synonymous with fucking animals at this point, and it's whatever.
And can we just say, like, you've said it enough now that I am singing Uncle Fucker to Chicken Fucker. Like in my head, shut your fucking face, Chicken Fucker.
Suck my balls.
What a wonderful time of year.
On a lighter, more family-friendly note, I don't know why we're bothering at this point, but the sets in this movie I absolutely loved. Whether they were the aerial sets that they were doing, like fly-throughs that, you know, they were way small,
dude,
they're not meant for people.
I wrote a note about, I think it's, I forget if it was Christmas Past or Christmas Present, but when they're flying above the town and it's just like this, like, non-realistic but endless field of like houses and rooftops and chimneys, and it's so fucking beautiful, and I'm just like, this is incredible.
I love toy sets, and like there's nothing in my mind that makes me think, oh, this is an actual real city that they're flying over, but I don't care. Like, it's the fucking Muppets. Like, that's closer than they needed to get. They didn't even need to make it look that good, and they did. So both the small sets and the big sets, I loved the fact that if you were to watch this movie kind of casually and I were to like turn it off and ask you, okay, tell me what the town looked like, you would describe a generic Victorian London type town. But when if I were to take a still and show it to you, you'll see that there are so many angles that are crooked. The town is a cartoon / Tim Burton-esque parody of London. Mm-hmm. It's not accurate at all. It's very weird looking when you actually break it down. But somehow in the world of Muppets, it feels very normal.
I think Cratchit's house is all kind of lopsided and it just works. Like, it doesn't call attention to itself. That's just the way it is. And you're like, yep.
And is that commentary about the world in which they exist?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, you know, maybe the lesser craftsmanship for the poor thing is being equated there. You know, like the not well-built houses are populated by the not wealthy. That sort of thing.
And if a Dutch angle is supposed to denote confusion because you're off kilter when you're looking, then all the foundations and walls and door jams and everything being crooked, does that tell me that the city itself is a little bit unsettled and crooked? Yeah, you know, so maybe, I don't know, maybe we're reading too much into it.
I'm going with we're reading way too much into it. But
probably. It's what we do.
This was the first Muppet movie after Jim Henson's death. Directed by his son Brian, who I would say is a pretty fantastic director. This is a well-directed movie. It looks great. It looks beautiful.
I didn't realize this was after his death. Oh, that's sad.
I believe there was a little in memory of thing.
I mean, I prefer Kermit as the lead, but, you know, there was a little in memory thing. Yeah.
It did sound a little different, and it felt a little bit different. Like I was saying when we were watching it, I was commenting that Kermit's his puppet looked a little bit different than usual. Like his head was a little bit softer than usual or something. I don't know. But it had a slightly different feel. It still felt wonderful.
I feel strange, but also good.
And I don't know if there's any controversy about Jim Henson. If there is, then, you know, I take it back. But as far as I could tell, that man was just a real solid force for good in the world. And he's like a Bob Ross or Mr. Rogers. Like when he's gone, that's just a loss for everybody. It's a loss for all of us. So.
Absolutely. And that is why in the movie, like, Rolf, the dog that plays the piano, he only plays the piano. He doesn't talk at all because they didn't have a voice for him yet because he was voiced by Jim Henson.
Oh, wow.
Maybe that's like a little nod, too, to him. Like, maybe they weren't trying too hard because leaving him voiceless is like, his spirit is still here. He's still a part of the Muppets, but he's not speaking any lines anymore.
Michael Caine is a great Scrooge. One of the best I've probably seen on film.
Right?
He's almost. I think he's perfectly cast. Like because he's able to have that sort of sharp British asshole edge, but then show the change. You know, you can see the change come over him and the regret and stuff in his eyes. Very well acted by him. For being in a non-serious movie, he like gave it his all, you know?
Michael Caine said he wanted to take the part, but he was going to play it. The only way he would agree is if they let him play it 100% serious, full out, like it was any Dixonian Christmas Carol rendition ever. Like, he wanted to go full out, and that was why it's like it is. He wanted it to be like that.
Yeah, wonderful. Good job, Michael Caine.
Yeah. I saw an interview with Brian Cox where he was just randomly talking about a bunch of different people in Hollywood, and something came up about Michael Caine, and he said something about Michael Caine, whatever. He's fine. He's not great. He's fine. He's an institution, and when you're an institution, who gives a shit about range? And I was like, oh, that's a kind of a sick burn, but there's a little bit of truth to it. Like Alfred Pennyworth and Scrooge are two variations on the same theme. Like Michael Caine, God bless his heart, he does a really good job at that kind of actor. I mean, this is kind of funny coming from Brian Cox because he does a great job of playing an angry old man too. But there is some truth that, and that's where maybe this is such a good casting for Michael Caine because he's kind of made to play this part. Stiff upper lip, abrasive but dry old British man. Perfect. That's Michael Caine.
Speaking of Scrooge, live your life in such a manner that the whole town you live in does not sing songs about how shitty you are as you walk past them.
Yeah. It doesn't look like the Ewok celebration at the end of Return of the Jedi when you die.
Yeah.
People aren't saying yub yub in the streets.
It's kind of harkening back to today's news, you know? Like, live
yeah,
your life
yeah,
in such a
exactly.
way that people are sad that you are murdered in the street.
Or at least nobody gives a shit. I mean, it's pretty bad when there's that's an acceptable
Rejoicing.
alternative that people just don't care. That's better than people rejoicing that you're not here anymore.
When Beaker and Dr. Bunsen show up as the, what is that called? Like the
Poorhouse collectors.
Yeah, the poorhouse collectors. Beaker says, "Oh dear," and that's the only words that I know of for certain that he's ever actually said actual words.
Oh,
I didn't think he said it as actual words. I thought it was just a very clearly
It was clear as day. It was, "Oh dear." It wasn't a meep. All he's ever said is meep, and I did not know that he's ever uttered an actual word, and he said, "Oh dear."
If they'd rather die, then they'd better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
This is the door. You may use it.
Now I have to watch it again because I don't remember. I didn't catch that. He is my favorite. He's not really my favorite. He's one of my. I love Beaker.
Yep.
I've had a thing for Kermit since I was a little child. Like Kermit was my.
Apparently, sometimes he does say things other than just meep. So it's a very rare occurrence, but it does happen. It even happened like on the regular TV show and stuff. So.
Oh, that's funny. I must have just never clocked or seen many of those instances because it was shocking to me. I was like, did he just say, "Oh dear"?
And I mean, granted, I don't think anybody here has seen every episode of The Muppet Show or anything like that. So
Wrong.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I stand corrected.
I loved the Muppets as a child. Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. There were worse things like the Muppets, Garfield, Popeye. As much as y'all hate Popeye, like these are standards that. What was the Garfield Heathcliff? The GoBots of Garfield is Heathcliff.
We got Garfield on Wish.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will occasionally throw the Muppet Show on in the background when I'm like cleaning and stuff now as a full-on adult.
I grew up with the movies. The show wasn't ever on anywhere that I knew of when I was a kid, but I did have Muppet Babies in the movies.
You are slightly younger than me. Not much, but slightly.
I remember the show being on TV.
It was on Saturday nights.
Yeah, I remember the show being on TV, and the part of the cool was when they had like the Hollywood Squares thing, where they had like the whole screen was gridded off, and there would be like 16 different characters, and they'd all be talking to each other through the theme song, and they'd be ignoring the song and just talking about random shit that that was part of the fun of the show. Is that it was very much like a sketch comedy. It felt like Saturday Night Live, but kid welcome.
I really like. I grew up on the Muppets. I loved the Muppets. I have all my sisters are a lot older than I am, so like I was a child that at 5 I would be like, he's my boyfriend, and Kermit the Frog was my first boyfriend. And my sister, I have one sister that did this to me. I used to love frog legs as a kid, and then she pointed out that they were Kermit's legs, and I have never eaten frog legs since.
I think I've had them once, and they tasted like really dry chicken, and I was like, I can't.
Well,
do
you
it
sickos,
anymore.
those were Kermit's legs. You were eating Kermit's legs. How dare you?
Hey, we'll put it this way. I didn't kill the frog. The restaurant I went to, it was already dead. So
You ate Kermit's legs.
they were pretty small.
That's why you never see his legs. That's why he hasn't ridden a bike since.
It's my fault that Kermit, I personally That was the one time I ate frog legs. That's what.
That southern frog legs magnate must have finally got his way.
Yeah. And it's funny that we revere the frog legs because of Kermit. How much, like, a whole generation of kids won't eat frog legs because of Kermit, and it makes me think, why didn't they ever make a cartoon character about a cow that everybody loves? And it's like, oh yeah, they wouldn't want us to actually think of cows as living creatures instead of just like meat plants.
Yeah, in this society, it'd be like Tasty the cow who like eats themselves, like, I'm so good. Yeah, that would be
Tasty the cow, the beef chef.
That full on sounds like something that South Park would do.
Yeah.
Hey, fuck you, buddy.
Statler and Waldorf as the Marleys is
Yes.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting it and was delighted.
The one big deviation from the standard script.
That there's two of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's two Marleys instead of one. But other than that, like, this movie is one of the closest to the source material, to the point where it quotes the source material at several places. Like, whole scenes are done like straight off the page, except for Statler and Waldorf being the Marleys, which they kill it, because even when they're in the universe and they're the first ghost, they're just mocking him the whole fucking time, and I love it. They're mocking themselves even.
Being ghosts, they're like, it's good to be heckling again, and the other one's like, it's good to be doing anything again.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
They are really great.
I think their song was also my favorite, that sort of vaudeville song with the chains, and I don't know, that was my favorite number of the whole production in this one, I believe.
Ebenezer Scrooge is definitely a stand-in for capitalism in this movie, like we talked about. And one of the notes that I put in here, it's something that it seems that a lot of these texts kind of tell us, but we don't really take it to heart. Maybe some people don't, is that it's very difficult, I would say almost impossible, to be rich in a poor society and still be a good person. I don't know how you, like, depending on your level of what you consider rich, like if your family makes, $200,000 a year, I don't expect you to, I don't think anybody expects you to give away all your money. But if you're like the kind of person where you're raking in millions or billions or whatever, then like,
yeah, dude,
how do you exist in this world?
If you're millions and up, like, put some of that back into the world that gave it to you. Like, come on.
Right. Especially, and if you're billions and up, you shouldn't ever get there, because you should be giving away enough to keep you in the millions, because you'll still be fine for the rest of your life and many others.
So to get a little bit into like the econ poli-sci part of it. So like, the CEOs are just figureheads of a corporation. Now, some people would look at corporations, and corporations were a wonderful invention, quote unquote, for like the economy. They completely exploded Wall Street and changed the world economy immediately. And they've been controlling a lot of things ever since. Now, some people have described a corporation as a parasite or something of that nature, because it just constantly grows and grows, like a cancer cell almost. Like it's always got to be constant growth. If you had a really good growth last quarter, then you can't stay even this quarter. You got to have more growth. That's unsustainable. No corporation can just grow forever. That's not how the world and math works. But the CEO, being the figurehead of this corporation, they have a responsibility. And there's a phrase I want to throw out there that maybe it almost, I don't know if it empathizes with CEOs, but realistically, they have what's called fiduciary responsibility. Mm-hmm. Now, fiduciary responsibility is a part of their contract. It's a part of the legal framework of how corporations work. That means that if I'm a CEO of a company and you tell me of a thing, you say, hey, you know what? We could cut employee benefits by 4%, and it'll still legally be binding with our contract. It's still aligned with our contract, but it will save us $10 million a year. If you don't do that, now that it's on record that somebody showed you that, you can get in a lot of fucking trouble if you're the CEO and you don't do it, because you have a fiduciary responsibility to make money for your shareholders. And if you choose not to take that, you could, in theory, you could not only be fired, but you could be brought up on civil charges and stuff like that, and maybe even criminal charges, but you could get in a lot of fucking trouble if you don't do what you're supposed to do. So it's almost like the whole system is geared so that they have to. These corporations it's automatic. They're not living creatures, and it's just automatic that they're going to soak up every little gap that they can get. If they can save $10,000 a year by switching to shitty toilet paper at their corporate office and it transcends to the entire company, then they're going to give you shittier toilet paper. That's just the way it goes, because they don't have to spend that money. So, it's a gross system,
Yes.
and there's more to it than a lot of people realize. And I want people to really look into that phrase, fiduciary responsibility, and understand why you could even put somebody like us at the head of a corporation, and we would almost be beholden to do a lot of the same shitty shit these people are doing. The difference is, I don't think anybody here wants to be CEO of a health insurance company.
Kneeling on the ground in front of a gunman with tears streaming down your face saying, "But I brought so much value to the shareholders."
Yeah, well, and as the planet is getting pummeled by climate change, people are starving in the streets, and look at the market. The market's doing great. I don't give a fuck about the market if people are starving in the fucking streets. You don't know. Stop what you're doing. This is not working. I don't know. Anyways, we're getting political on a Muppet movie.
But also, like, you can have fiduciary responsibility and take care of all of that, and you still personally don't have to amass massive fortunes yourself. You could choose to have a modest income that you keep for yourself. That's a choice that every person, including the shareholders, makes.
Well, and there's a lot of ways that society can curtail this kind of behavior. And if you look back 60, 70 years ago, how we recovered from the Great Depression was strong social programs, strong social safety nets, a job placement program for everybody, building all the shit that we were building in the 30s and 40s. These are the ways that and a high corporate tax on profits over a certain amount. So and this doesn't apply to ma and pop. If you know a couple that owned a restaurant down the road and their operating net is $1 million a year, maybe we're not talking about taxing them 90% of their profits. But if they're the owners of Walmart, tax those motherfuckers. Any profit over a certain level, tax them to king and country, because there's no reason for one person or a group of people to have that much wealth while, again, people are starving in the fucking street.
I believe it's Scrooge's headmaster at his boys' school that says the line, "Business, it's the American way," and they're in 18th century London or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. And then they have to correct him. Wait, no, we're in London.
And he goes, "Oh yes, the
British way." Yeah, the British
way. Yeah. I love Sam the Eagle.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get us too far into a political discussion. But again, that's what this movie is about.
That's what
else that you're
that's
taking
the message
from it, you're not
of the
paying
movie
attention.
is that greed is terrible and kills people, and you should spread your wealth and make people's lives better if you have the ability to.
Yeah. Yep. I even had a patron come into the library today, and he just started talking about it out of nowhere. He obviously had a lot to say, and it was 9:05 in the morning. So I'm still bro, I've had 2 sips of coffee, but I didn't say that. But anyways, he comes up to me. He's like, did you hear about that shooting and what they're doing? I saw a news article today that said that CEOs are scurrying and they're trying to figure out better personal protection for themselves. Maybe they shouldn't worry about protecting themselves. Maybe they should start paying attention to what the people need. And I was like, I understand what you're saying. I'm not going to get into a political discussion with at the library, but I'm just random people walking in off the street are just saying this to random strangers and passersby. Good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can look at this and go, look at all the dancing Muppets and the cute songs. But what they're saying is stop fucking killing people so you can make a fucking profit.
Also, he's talking about his old headmaster. He says, he taught me my most valuable lesson. Does anybody remember what that was? Because there was another thing that he says that I wrote down that I think it's supposed to be as a little tongue-in-cheek joke. But
wait, who says what?
Scrooge says that the headmaster taught me my most valuable lesson, and it was something about working hard while other people are playing, whatever. But another thing he says is he tells him when he takes his coach or whatever away, he says, "Don't tip the driver." And I wrote down that's probably
that's the big tip.
The most valuable lesson.
Don't tip.
Yeah, that's what Scrooge
Mr.
took
Pink
away.
from Reservoir Dogs is somewhere going, yes, that's what I was saying.
What was the part that you laughed the hardest at? Because I have a very, very clearly defined one.
Honestly, the part that I laughed at the most is when Gonzo landed on the pheasant or whatever, but that's much later in the story. We'll get to that. The Gonzo story is its own epic within this story. So
there's so many.
Why, you, Jamie?
I laughed at the garland of rubber chickens. That really got me.
Yeah.
Mine does involve Gonzo, but it was when Rizzo the rat was hanging. I think he was hanging from a wire or something, or a clothesline, and Gonzo puts like a water barrel underneath him to fall into or whatever, to catch him. And it's like freezing cold, and he falls in, and Gonzo's like, "You're welcome," he says. But then something's going on, and they were like, "We're going into the house that we're following." But then it cuts back to Gonzo over the barrel with a stick, and he's saying, "Come on, Rizzo, grab the stick." Like Rizzo has drowned, frozen, like in the bottom of the barrel. I audibly laughed out loud.
Gonzo and Rizzo were amazing.
Yeah.
He was sex stupid. He was too busy chasing that Chickussy. Chickussy.
Brother,
Chickussy.
What's that, brother?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I
I
put that word into the world, and I don't know why I did it.
Brother,
Yes, I'd like to strike that word from the vernacular moving forward.
Too late. It is now a thing.
It would be horrible if that was the podcast episode name.
Gonzo chasing Chickussy. Yeah.
Just the Muppet Christmas Carol Chickussy.
Wonderful. Fate has a way of working itself out on these things, it seems.
Oh God, no! Let's hope we find something better than that as we go.
Nope, that's it. That's the one.
Animal playing the triangle and breathing heavy, like, because he's anticipating the drums is fucking wonderful.
And there's nothing there. Like, I imagine that's like that like edging without ever getting to the edge. You know, like he's like, and then all he has is ding. Like, God damn it! I want something else big to make noise with, and all I have is this little tiny.
Animal breathing heavy always cracks me up too, because he's just like so frustrated all the time.
I think one of my favorite lines, I think, if you were asking, I don't know if it made me laugh, but it definitely made me groan in a dad joke kind of way, was when I think it was one of the first songs going on, when the little mice were singing and they said, "Jesus for us Mises." And I thought that was such an interesting rhyme that I loved it.
Yes. I have that one written down too.
Jesus for us Mises. Editing Kelly here. Guess what? Keith lost his internet connection again. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It feels like every time we record, he loses his internet connection halfway through. Yeah. We're going to dock his pay. For real. Anyways, so back to the fun.
I just went on a magical mystery tour through old London.
Did you get the "Come, man, know me"?
Yeah, I wrote that down because I love that line so much. Come here, know me better, man.
Yes, that's what it was.
Something about that I want to start saying to people when I meet them or when I'm getting to know them for the first time.
I might hold off on that a little bit, buddy.
Why?
You go up to a random person and say, "Come, know me better,
no,
man."
it's "Come here
sounds...
and know me better, man." Get it right.
Know me better. That's the. You're worried about the wrong part. The know me better. I get it. You get it. It sounds a little like, do you know him biblically?
Know me intimately,
kind of
man.
Like, come get to know me a little bit better. Come closer. And like, how about I just stay over here and get to know you the same level that we were at?
This is the level I was comfortable with. This is where I'd like to stay. Thank you.
Scrooge's nephew is kind of a dick. Even though Scrooge is a dick, it's still like, aw, seeing him watch his nephew, like, talk shit about him. Like,
well, but he deserves it.
He
so,
does,
you know.
but I still have empathy for seeing,
Wait, am I implying that if you're a greedy CEO, you deserve some level of retribution?
You were.
How
at
dare
least
you.
social sanction?
How dare you?
But then again, social sanction is very different than murder, I will say. Moida.
I think it's important that we note that we did watch the full version, which has the song that was too sad for children.
The saddest song in the world that made me misty-eyed.
It actually did make me sad, yeah.
I cried too. I got all teary. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because it is really sad.
Which, good Lord, why did you remove that? That's the whole point in a musical, is to make you feel emotions.
Yeah.
We felt sad at that point. We felt compassionate, and we felt regret when we saw what was going on to Tiny Tim. We felt jubilation at the end when even Scrooge comes around and everybody has Christmas spirit and everybody's feasting together and we all forgive each other and everybody's happy. That's the whole fucking point. That's the whole point.
I think that the song was sad. Don't get me wrong. The song was sad, but I think it was the way that Michael Caine played it that really tore at my heartstrings.
They both did such a good job, and it paid that we're seeing the context. There's a lot of context delivered in a short period. Like, also, obviously, we had the beginning of the play where we see like the backdrop and we get to know the characters and whatever. And then we know that Scrooge is alone later in life. So this woman did not make it into his later life one way, shape, or another. And then we see him, like, quickly, we understand that he's going to fall in love with her, and then we see her walking away from him immediately. So we know how much is at stake, that this is something that he's regretted his whole life. It was one of the big loves of his life, if not the big love of his life. You know, this is a huge moment. So in that snapshot of his life, we get all this context, and then the actors delivered it beautifully. The song was pretty good. Like, and that's the thing is, like, I don't know if the song by itself would have made me get misty-eyed at all, but watching them go through it, it was brilliant. And the movie would be lesser for not having that in it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I part of me understands, like, I believe they had literally like little children, like, crying their eyes out coming, you know, when that happened, which is, they're like, oh, okay.
Hey,
well,
you know what? If we lived through The Last Unicorn and Atreyu from Neverending Story, they can live through this.
Right.
Okay?
I agree with that.
I don't feel like my childhood was scarred because of the fear I felt by the bull in Last Unicorn or watching Artax die in Neverending Story. I feel like my childhood was enriched by that.
I was scarred by Artax.
Well, but it made me, I hugged my pets closer after that.
Right.
You know, I mean,
yes.
It made me realize the impermanence of life in a way that my hamster dying at a young age probably wouldn't have done.
So that was that song, that was like the last of the Ghost of Christmas Past, right? Because they're dealing with his his breakup, and then the Ghost of Christmas Present is the Come Here, Know Me Better Man. All of the ghosts terrifying in their own way.
Yeah.
The Ghost of Christmas Past was like this weird faced angelic looking Muppet with, like, I don't know, just an uncanny valley face. And then the Ghost of Christmas Present is gargantuan, but it's like slowly aging as he's spending time with Scrooge, which is a very nice touch. Like, he's got all this bright red hair when you first meet him, and then by the end it's almost all gray. Just tons of little touches on things throughout pretty much every Muppet endeavor, but you know, that stand out like this. Speaking of sexual deviancy, the Ghost of Christmas Present portion is where Rizzo says he fell down the chimney and onto a flaming goose, and Gonzo says you had all the fun.
Yeah, like it's just straight face that he wants to fuck everything. It's just foul. Period. Like
it's
anything foul.
chickens.
Anything. It's foul, and it's foul that he's so into foul. But it's anything that's got like 2 legs, 2 wings, and feathers. He's probably all up in them.
He's a bird
guts.
fucker.
That is not a sentence that I ever need to hear again.
Oh my God, it's Gonzo's fault. I swear it's Gonzo's fault.
I wrote down this phrase, life is a series of meetings and partings, because it's poetic, beautiful, and I don't know, it just stood out to me.
I mean, yeah. I mean, but that's that's pure reductionist, obviously. But there's a bittersweet element to it that I get it. I'm not trying to be too pedantic, but I'm thinking, like, you could also describe life as a series of opening and closing doors. Yeah. Series of waking up and going to sleep.
Yeah, same thing.
Well, way to take all the romanticism out of it, Kelly.
It's just 80 years if you're lucky of breathing in and breathing out. I fucking love Muppetville, and I would totally live there as a human. Like, they seem like very nice, cordial, happy. They would get a little annoying if you were having a bad day and Fonzie was like, waka, 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 and trying to be all silly with you. But overall, like, I would rather have annoying, kind of stupid, but very kind and fun-loving friends. So, yeah. I dig Muppetville. It's got a cool vibe to it, too.
I think the point of Fozzie is that he's kind of annoying.
Yeah. And his friends kind of, like, they look past that fact. I mean, I know exactly what that feels like.
There's also...
I feel a dig there.
There would be a song for you just about around any corner, you know, popping off somewhere. If you're
I gotta tell you, though, if I started having the mass following me around singing stories about how shitty of a person I was, there might be some self-fulfilling prophecy there. I might be punting a couple of baby Muppets somewhere. Like, leave me alone. If I'm in a bad mood, imagine the day that you are in a bad mood, somebody goes, "Oh, he's in a bad mood. Did you hear that, Mr. Nelson?" And next thing you know, they're singing a song about how you're grumpy. I'd be like, you know what? Why don't you all fuck off? Why don't all of you take turns fucking off?
The last note that I actually have, it says that the music during the Scrooge grave scene is exquisite. I loved that musical beat of him discovering and almost pleading. He knows, but he's still asking, "Whose grave is it? Whose grave is it?" And then the music swell there is so ominous and foreboding, and just expertly crafted scene.
Must we return to this place? There's something else that I must know. Is that not true? Spirit, I know what I must ask. I fear to, but I must. Who was the wretched man whose death brought so much glee and happiness to others?
Oh, I do have a note here about the breakup song, the very sad song that we all really enjoyed. Even though I really loved the emoting, I loved the music and the context, like I said, it felt like, and this is a problem that some musicals have, and some musicals just figured it out, and God bless them. I don't know if we need as many verses as they gave us of it. It feels like there's like 3 verses and choruses to go along with them or something along those lines. And it felt like we could have been okay with 1 and 3. And maybe it was just that, and this is maybe an overall criticism of the show, is this is the kind of show where, to use like musical parlance, the staging was great. So the director was great. The choreographer was great. All of the actors, dancers, singers, and everybody did a great job. The book was great, but the lyrics weren't as good, in my opinion. A lot of the songs, I really enjoyed the beat of the music. I really enjoyed the tonality of the music. I really enjoyed the energy behind the performances, but the words felt really rough. It felt like I was watching, like, it kind of the way Mark Hamill describes George Lucas's dialogue. And I was thinking that maybe those rough parts were where the book was being directly quoted. Maybe that's the problem that I had, that it felt unwieldy and kind of pompous and pretentious a little bit. And maybe that's a sign that if you're going to do a musical about Victorian London, use current vernacular where you can, so the audience feels comfortable, rather than both Sweeney Todd and this movie existed in London, and I feel more comfortable with a lot of the phrasing in Sweeney Todd. Was I alone in that? Does anybody else have anything to say about were they comfortable for you?
It didn't jump out at me or anything, but I can see what you're saying now that you say it.
I enjoy a lot of Victorian English books and movies, and so I don't even think it would strike me odd at all.
Well, it's more that it's kind of like, okay, Alanis Morissette is glorious at taking really complicated sentences and fitting them into a song where they wouldn't normally fit. And that's one of her like godlike talents in the world. She's a pretty good singer. She's a pretty good guitar player. She's a really good songwriter. And part of the reason why is because she can take shit that I can't even think of one of her lyrics, but just read an Alanis Morissette lyric from one of her early albums. And it's her rambling on a page. And somehow she turns that into fucking music, and it's beautiful. And it feels like this movie was somebody trying to do that and fit the words from a book into a song in a way that made sense. And I'm like, no, that doesn't fit with the tempo and the cadence of what I'm expecting. Like, your words should almost be on a rhythm like a piano or a drum. Like, everything should have a rhythm to it. Even if you're legato with your rhythms and stuff like that, there still should be a rhythmic center to the words even. And some songs do you're putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable kind of thing. Like, yeah, you're technically saying all the letters, but that's not how it should sound. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
No, I can get what you're saying there. Not everybody's that great of a songwriter that, can make those concepts come to life like that.
And
so
heaven knows I'm not exactly, like, I'm not a lyricist that's won any awards or anything like that, so I'm not even saying that I have the answer to that. But I'm trying to figure out why the songs didn't land as well for me. Like, as far as a musical goes, this would not be in my top 25.
No, I agree. The songs themselves weren't anything that I was like, oh, this is a great song. Oh, this is something that stuck in my head. I couldn't really tell you any lyrics from any of the songs.
Yeah, that's true. And the Marley song, I remember the vibe of it, but I don't really remember lyrics, and that was my favorite one. So I guess that sort of speaks to that.
And this is not the kind of, and it sounds weird to say, but like I would put Home Alone on in the background during Christmas time while I was baking cookies or entertaining guests or something like that. I don't know if I'd put this on in the background because this movie is, funny enough, it's too intense.
Yeah.
Like I'd want to watch it and pay attention. Like even though it was Muppets, those scenes with the three ghosts, and which is the lion's share of the movie, were really fucking intense. So I don't know. It's a Christmas movie, but it's a Christmas movie much like Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Like, yeah, Christmas is the setting, but the message is just as relevant June 2nd as it is on December 25th.
Yeah, and it's not feel good until the end. It's like a fairly heavy concept of a movie.
And I can usually judge how intense our movies are by how many notes I have. The less intense ones tend to have way more notes because I can take the time to write a note in between things. I only have like a page of notes for this movie because I just kept like staring at the screen and really paying attention.
Yeah, same.
Don't worry, then I got you covered. I got like 4 pages.
I have a front and a back page, and I have gone through them. Yeah.
Most of the notes that I have are things that we've kind of already talked about. They just kept coming back. Like, oh, Gonzo's trying to fuck a chicken again. Or, oh, another example of how capitalism is wrong, or at least it really should be heavily relegated or regulated. Yeah, so I mean, there are some notes that are not related to that. You talk about how we get that pressure release and that happiness at the end of the movie. And I was really thankful for that. And we've got like a decent amount of time, like as the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Everybody mocks the ending of the Lord of the Rings trilogy because it's so fucking long and it just keeps ending and it keeps ending.
It's like 18 endings.
Yeah, but you know what? If you look at the percentage of that whole epic story and how much of it was dedicated to the ending, I don't know what the percent is, but it's less than what this movie had in an hour-and-a-half movie, and I'm thankful for that because much like Lord of the Rings, at least the way I felt when I watched the movie in the theater, I know I had to pee, so that was a little different example. I'm sure I'm not the only one that had to pee at the end of Return of the King, and you're like, come on, I gotta fucking pee so bad. Yeah. I would be willing to bet that millions of people shared my experience with that. But aside from that, I wanted to have some time to spend with these characters where everything's okay-ish for the most part. We can see Sam go back and meet his girl and try to ask her out and all that stuff. Then in this movie, I wanted to see Scrooge walk through London and right a lot of wrongs. I wanted to see him do it. It wasn't enough for me to have him wake up Christmas morning and go, it's Christmas Day, I'm completely changed. No, do it. I want to see it. I want to see you give money to Bob Cratchit. I want to see you give money to the poorhouse people that are looking for donations. I want to see this shit. And that the movie gives, and it's probably quoting the book again, but just good storytelling that it didn't feel overproductive and it felt happy. It felt good. It felt a good amount.
Yeah. Plus, how many times can you see Elijah Woods like open his mouth and eyes in shock surprise and then slowly shift down into a knowing smile and a tilt of the head? Because I think he does that approximately 150 times in the various different endings.
That look has made that man a lot of money in his life, and we will not, we won't hear any Elijah Wood debasement in this house. Yeah, I my mind is ruined from the internet as well, because as soon as you've seen that one, Gandalf, and Gandalf has the gap between his teeth, that has ruined that scene for me every time now.
Gandalf!
I can't fucking unsee that. And
there's also the I won't describe what happens in the meme, but it ends with "Nothing dampens your spirits, does it, Sam?" There's so many memes.
Well, I think I missed that one.
Dirty.
Yeah, probably for the better.
Anyways, this isn't about Lord of the Rings
yet.
Dun, dun, dun.
Couple of random notes from me. The bunny kid, was it supposed to be a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so the bunny, that's what I thought. So Bunny Kid,
He's a newspaper boy or whatever.
Bunny Kid is greater than Gizmo. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry. It
Yeah,
had to be
adorable.
said. I don't know if anybody else.
Yes, that bunny is so freaking adorable.
I love that Bunny Kid a million times more, and I want to have a copy of that Bunny Kid more than I ever wanted a Gizmo. So yeah, when he's like sleeping in the snow, I was like, that's what's wrong with this world when this cute little child is being forced to sleep outside. Like, and that's where your brain catches up and you go, that's literally happening right now. That's literally happening right now. Maybe 1 million kids are on the streets. I don't know what the numbers are. Probably more than that if you look at the whole fucking world. Like, can you look at what's happening with families in war ravaged areas, whether we're talking about the Congo, whether we're talking about Ukraine, whether we're talking about Gaza, now areas of Syria. There are lots of places where shit like, oh my God.
Well, not even just there. Here in America, that's happening on a far too frequent basis. You know,
Absolutely.
kids in the cold.
Yep, the average American is 2 paychecks away from being homeless.
Yep.
I think something like 90% are 3 paychecks away.
Anyways.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. And this is what we're talking about.
Fantastic.
Oh, God. I don't know why we don't have thousands of daily listeners. Maybe someday I'll figure it out. Something that I would like to say about Scrooge, it's hard for me also to say Ebenezer Scrooge and not Scrooge McDuck. That's been kind of permanently
They're kind of
branded into my
synonymous,
mind.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, anyways, Scrooge, when you think of somebody as a Scrooge, like Scrooge has become an adjective or an adverb at this point. It is used to describe behavior or things or people kind of thing. He's a real Scrooge. Okay, cool. So that means that he's an asshole and he's cheap with his money. Did you not watch A Christmas Story? The whole point of the story is that he gives his money up now. And I'm curious of how we as a culture, the whole point of the story is that he changed, but we as a culture have glommed onto the fact of his pre-story form more than his post-story form. And that's so different than so many other pieces of media where when you think of Neo from The Matrix, you don't think of him as Mr. Anderson that has no idea that The Matrix existed. You think of him as the flying, beating up Neo. Why do we not do that with Scrooge? We think, because obviously maybe the example, I don't know.
I'm going to adopt this, and whenever I see someone giving, like, high amounts of money to charity or whatever, I'm going to be like, what a Scrooge. And then
yeah, what's up, what? Scrooge?
They're going to be like, well, you see, Scrooge actually changed his ways at the end.
Yeah.
Have a terrible, actually conversation with the people who I tell this to.
Oh, another part that almost made me cry was when Scrooge got the scarf at the end. When somebody hands him the
he's
scarf.
like, it's for me. And like he seems really touched by that.
All of a sudden you realize what a sympathetic and tragic character Scrooge himself is. Like, you always kind of assume, well, you must be pretty miserable to be this miserly and miserable to others. But then you see that moment where somebody's actually kind to him. It feels like for the first time in a long time, and it gives him something because they just want him to have it, not because they're trying to get something from him. And I don't know. He becomes really sympathetic quickly. And as much as I was allowing Brian Cox to insult Sir Michael Caine earlier, that's one of those moments where
it's in his eyes. Yeah. It's in his eyes. His eyes get just the perfect hint of wetness, and he seems taken aback, and like it seems extremely genuine how grateful he is. It's a pretty wonderful scene.
Yep. And even at the end where they make a comment about in the song, it's something like, you can tell a man's life by counting his friends. And I'm like, people in the social media age will completely poison that state. No, we got to take that line out because that's not just because you have millions of Mr. Beast is not the most wonderful person in the world. I'm sorry if anybody is a huge fan of, I'm not saying, I don't know anything about the guy, but either way, that doesn't necessarily, PewDiePie is not like a moral person because he's got millions of followers. That doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
No.
When the Ghost of Christmas Present says, "My time grows short," I love that line, especially coming from the embodiment of the present.
Right.
Not only is it masterful that each word in that sentence speaks volumes and affects the other words, it's so succinct and perfect. It's the opposite of me, really, really when it comes down to it. But also, it makes you realize that it's kind of like when you start learning about, like, I don't know if anybody's taken like physics courses and quantum mechanics courses, even with cosmology and astronomy, we kind of get into it a little bit, which that's where more like I took classes in the cosmology astronomy side. But that the present is an ever changing moment. And this might sound obvious to you, but the present is not like this hour. It's right now. Even saying the word now, it's already gone kind of thing. It's the shortest period of time in human history. The future is infinite. The past is 16.9 billion years. The present, there's not even a time that we have that's small enough to denote what the present is. It's the shortest period of time that the human mind can comprehend. And that's why that line, "my time grows short," is perfect coming from the present.
The phrase "grows short" is in conflict with itself, and I love that I don't know, what would you call it, the construction of that, or the juxtaposition there of, because how can it grow short? It's
irony.
I don't know.
It's,
maybe that's just a stoned thought, but it's.
I think there's a word that you're looking for, and I think I'm looking for it too. The contradiction, the juxtaposition, the dichotomy is the word I was looking for. The dichotomy of it. Maybe not even that word. I don't know. We'll move on, because the only other thing I have is several notations about Gonzo trying to fuck a chicken, or him going through the tree and knowing the chicken by name. Lots of chicken fucking, and that's who they decided to have as Charles Dickens.
The movie just makes this one, like, if it hinted at it in other movies, it makes it abundantly clear, no question, he's a chicken fucker. So you can send that to the bank.
Yeah, they leaned on it. That was like, they're kind of expecting you to know that about the character when we go in. Like, we know that Kermit is a nice guy before we go in, so it's easy for us to adapt to Bob Cratchit. We know that Gonzo's a chicken fucker, so every time he makes a chicken fucking joke, we already know that, and we're able to laugh at it and not look around and go, are we supposed to laugh at this chicken fucking joke? And yeah, you are. It's part of what's going on. And God bless them. They're so wholesome. That's why it's so weird, because they're so wholesome. The Muppets are wonderful in 1,000 ways, except for they're not pulling any punches when it comes to that Chickussy. Sorry, I had to say it again.
Brother,
I had to say it again.
I'm going to get you a shirt that says Chickussy.
Chickussy with an exclamation mark at the end. It's got to be yellow shirt, right? Well, maybe pink. I don't know. Well, let's.
Oh dear.
The ghost of
I was going to say
Past
Gonzo
was
Green
scary.
or Gonzo Blue.
But that's not the Chickussy. Oh, that's Gonzo saying it, because he's the one that wants it. Where the Chickussy at? Gonzo. All right, so the Ghost of Christmas Past, fucking scary as hell. That shows you that the Henson Muppets are capable of stuff that will scar you in different ways. Like,
oh yeah,
what was it? Was it Last Labyrinth or what is it?
Labyrinth.
The Dark Crystal. Dark Crystal. That's what I'm thinking of. The fucking Skeksis. Yeah, my entire life, those things have been sitting in the back of my mind, waiting to
they just
eat
look
me
like
or
pure
something.
evil.
Yeah, like they would capture you and roast you over a flame and eat your legs slowly or something like that.
Laugh about it.
Yeah.
Also, the Fireys from the Labyrinth that detach their heads and throw them about, they're pretty scarring as well.
Yeah, the Jim Henson Workshop is some of the most talented people in the industry. Like, I've watched a few documentaries, and I think there was even a series about, it's kind of like Project Runway, but working at the Jim Henson shop. People like learning how to make Muppets and make creatures in the Creature Workshop.
Yeah.
And it's literally people who are just at the top of their game are the people who get hired into that ecosystem, and
master of practical effects right there.
Yes, they are masters of their craft, and I am sad for the day when eventually, as all things end, that there will be no more Jim Henson's Creature Shop. Hopefully it's a long time away, but they are a bright spot in the creative endeavors of movie magic.
I don't think that CGI ever gets to a point where puppeteering done at this scale is obsolete. It just feels like permanent kind of art, kind of like stage acting. We'll never as a society move past the need for watching people perform on a stage in front of you. I don't care how good VR gets. I don't care how good movies get. I don't care how good CGI gets. There's nothing the same as sitting in a house watching a live performance. You affect the performance by your presence being there. And you feel the vibe of the person. Like it's hard to explain until you've seen a show or you've really let yourself get into a stage play or a musical or something like that that's being performed live. When it's done well, it's one of the most magical experiences. And I think puppeteering is right up there. That when it's done well like this, there's no substitute for that. There's nothing you can make the Muppets on that are as fun as watching the Muppet movie or this, or I'm sure on any of the other Muppet movies, which we'll eventually get to at some point. I think out of our 3 questions, the first one doesn't make sense for this movie.
No, we can't do it now.
This is the basis for that
you
question.
You could totally do, like, who else would you take and make a human if it wasn't Scrooge?
I don't know. I like
I know.
I like it. It's just fine the way this is the model. Like I said, it's like watching Fun Home and trying to apply the Bechdel test to it. Like, no, this is the person that made that test.
I want to see Kermit anamorph into a human being. What does human Kermit look like, do we think? Like, pick a celebrity.
Neil Patrick Harris? Younger?
God, no. No. This is my first boyfriend we're talking about here.
I'm thinking structurally of his face, because he has a very, like, plain, handsome, boyish look. Maybe, okay, like, what's the guy's name that plays Wilson on House?
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. I nominate Tom Hiddleston as Kermit the Frog.
Robert Sean Leonard. That's the guy I'm thinking of.
I think he feels kind of like a Nathan Fielder type to me. If anybody knows about Nathan For You or The Rehearsal or anything.
Now I have to look this up.
The more I look at the Robert Sean Leonard, I'm convinced now that I'm going to show you all a picture of this, because this is, instead of doing the Muppet question, now we're doing the who's the real life Kermit. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with Keith's choice. I can understand that choice.
Put the picture up in the chat. Let's see it.
Oh
Tell me that's not
he's got
Kermit.
A beak. He kind of has a beak. I think you're onto something.
So who's the guy you mentioned, Keith? Or put it in the chat.
Nathan Fielder. Yeah, let me get you an image.
If I need to put an image of Tom Hiddleston, I need to disown you both. So.
Yeah, so the Nathan Fielder looks more like Kermit, but he's not as handsome and boyish looking. He's a little bit more. He's a funny looking fella, a little more than the one I was picking.
If you hear him talk, he has a Kermit-esque voice too. That's kind of the main thrust of that.
Okay,
but those guys, it's two short brown-haired white guys. Like that's the prototype, I guess.
And I can see the Tom Hiddleston, but I'm going to tell you right now, Jamie, I'm taking your pick with a grain of salt, because I know that he's your first.
You're sexually
boyfriend.
Attracted.
Yeah, exactly. There's like an element that he's got to be sexy to it, whereas
Yes!
I don't want to fuck Kermit, so.
I didn't want to fuck
Speak
Kermit.
For yourself, buddy.
I just wanted to kiss Kermit, and he was my man. Okay.
Again, going back to the transitive property, if you say, I don't want to fuck Kermit, I want to fuck Tom Hiddleston. Tom Hiddleston should play Kermit. That means you want to fuck Kermit.
Fucking Kermit would be so disappointing.
It would be.
I've seen the puppets before. That orifice is way too big.
I also feel like he would absolutely be one who cries after sex.
Which, Tom Hiddleston or Kermit?
Kermit! There will be no Tom Hiddleston slander.
Hey, Tom Hiddleston could cry after sex. You never know. He could probably be in touch with his feelings.
His orifices are also way too big.
Brother,
Hey, it's okay for
I
men
don't want to
cry.
know how you know that.
No, the Kermit orifice where you put your hand.
Yes, and then he said Tom Hiddleston's were also.
Yeah, I was
Kermit is a real fan of
Hiddleston
fisting.
well.
That's all. He's really into. You want to talk about prolapse?
He can't go to work. He can't go to work unless he's got a fist up in him.
He's perfect for doing the goatsy meme.
Brother,
Okay, well, what is the popcorn bucket? It's Kermit's prolapse.
Kermit is doing the goatsy.
I feel strange, but also good.
We've gone off the rails with this one.
I think I am scarred for life now.
Oh, Kermit doing the goatsy. I thought Chickussy was good, but Kermit doing the goatsy is...
I think this speaks to why we can't record at night anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so this is either getting us canceled or somebody else on the other end is finding it as entertaining as we are.
Hopefully.
So who's your MVP of this movie? Who you want to give your ribbon to? You want to pin that on them?
I was going to say the little baby rabbit, because the little baby rabbit is freaking adorable.
He is the cutest, like, stuffed animal Muppet, whatever you want to call him, one of the cutest I've ever seen. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any stuffed animals in my house, and now I want to actually look up and like buy a little mini version. It has to be the same size, that tiny little size and everything. So yeah, I totally understand.
Like handheld size.
What's yours, Kelly?
I don't know. I was gonna go last because I don't want this to pass without giving something to Michael Caine because he's fucking perfect in this role.
I was gonna say the clear, obvious choice is Michael Caine, but I'm throwing an image in chat. Old Joe the Spider Muppet, I thought was a fucking fantastic puppet, and the puppetry involved in bringing him to life. He was the one they were selling all of Scrooge's belongings in the Christmas Future, you know, and it really stood out at how cool of a little character he was. So Old Joe Spider is my MVP.
Okay, I can get by that. And I guess the obvious, like, Michael Caine should, like, I hope he gets a ton of praise for this movie. I'm sure he did over the years because this was wonderful in a million ways. But if I was choosing a non-Michael Caine, I really, really enjoyed the Christmas present that the Bacchian, it looks exactly like Bacchus brought to life, and I thought that was just so really well done. I don't know if that's a Muppet that already existed or if they made it for this, but either way, it's very well informed in a nuanced way that you picked the god of like jubilation and getting drunk and living in the now as the present. But he's speaking in a way that you always have to be aware that the present is such an interesting philosophical point of view or thing to talk about because it's informed by the past, but it creates the future, and it's in an indefinite amount of time, and framing that, having all this serious conversation coming from an embodiment of Bacchus, I thought was just brilliant. I thought that was really well done, and I think it might have go over a lot of people's heads, and maybe it wasn't. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but it felt right out of the Saturnal, like, you know. I don't know.
I didn't clock it at the time of viewing, but now that you say it, it's almost slapping me in the face.
But
that's what I thought too, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. So
I feel like that's a very common portrayal of Christmas present. Like, I feel like that archetype is used in a lot of the movies. Yeah,
it's kind of like the midwinter feast. The whole point is, like, you have to have that moment of jubilation to break the pressure of a harsh winter. That moment where everybody eats and drinks a little bit fancier food because you maybe you don't have anything to celebrate. Let's say you're not a Christian and it's like pre-Christianity days. You need some reason for people to get together and have a celebration just to lift everybody's spirits.
A solstice celebration.
Hell, we're playing our D&D game right now that your characters are making a celebration to try to lift everybody's spirits because you're in the middle of a really long, cold part of the story kind of thing. So I think there's an element to that. So yeah, that's all the other stuff we talked about. I guess the question now that we all have to answer, and I'm sure this is going to be a very difficult question, is: did you like the movie, and would you give it a thumbs up?
You really want to do this? Here. Now? Yes. Okay. Let's do it!
I mean, I think we have covered the fact that I am a Muppet lover, and there's very little that the Muppets can do that I don't like. So I give it
especially Tom Hiddleston, right?
Yeah, Frog Hiddleston.
Frog Hiddleston. Oh, there you go. Wonderful. Yeah, I wonder if that exists. If you could do a Rule 34 of Frog Hiddleston.
I really hope not. But I love this movie. I love, like we said, it is probably my favorite story of the Christmas Carol. I'm not a huge Dickens fan, but this is a really great telling of this story. So a thumbs up for me.
So what about you, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever encountered a Muppet endeavor that I didn't just full barrel enjoy. So it's a definite thumbs up from me. What about you, Kelly?
Yeah, for all the reasons I brought up, it's definitely a thumbs up. But it's weird because, again, I don't know if I would watch it casually. It's an intense movie. Even the good parts, like I really want to pay attention to them, and the bad parts, I really want to think about the bad.
By the nature of it being a Christmas Carol, right? It's just a heavy subject in general.
And the Muppets, they draw it as much into the happy territory as much as the Dickens story brings me into the sad territory. So it's like everything. It's an extreme emotion movie, whether you're really having a good time with the happy-go-lucky, wild, wacky Muppets, or you're really delving into the horrible effects of unbridled capitalism and the horrible things it can do to families. And
although it does not leave a lot of wiggle room for, like, say, a Nazi scientist to show up, by the nature of it being a previously crafted story. So no Mel Brooks Nazi torture.
Threatening to torture the frog while his girlfriend watches. But then again, we also didn't have any call for Miss Piggy to bust out her fucking kung fu skills and kick everybody's ass in this movie either, which I gotta tell you, I missed that. And this movie, as much as we enjoyed it, I missed the actual Muppets coming out more. Like, we didn't see Fonzie. We didn't see Kermit, really.
Did you say Fonzie? He said
he did say Fonzie.
Yeah, I did. Hey, I was calling Christopher Columbus last week, so, you know. Hey,
Fonzie from the Muppets.
Fonzie Ferrelli. Yeah. Fonzie Ferrelli. Yeah.
No, speaking of AI, we have a lot of Muppet porn, I guess, that we need to come up with here.
Wow. Like, I mean, yeah, now that we've opened the Tom Hiddleston gates, like, it's just, it's all porn all the time. Yeah, this is, ironically, we're doing a Muppet Christmas Carol at the end of our Christmas series of movies, and this has got to be the most pornographic and social commentary episode we've had in a long time.
Welcome to Screen Share Late Night, everyone.
What are we doing to ourselves?
We're working blue this evening.
All right, well, if you enjoyed our thoughts on this, please make sure you have, follow us on social media. Go check us out on ko-fi.com/screenshare, where you can support us and help us pay for the next movie that we have to rent due to watching these things. Or, you can actually make us watch a movie of your choice, your choosing. Follow us on social media also at Facebook, on Blue Sky, where we are really enjoying Blue Sky has just taken off in general, but our page has actually got quite a few likes, and the commentary has been pretty good there so far.
Engagement, so. Wow!
Except I think I saw one that was kind of like a bot, but I didn't want to be rude and call them out. But some weird random account had made a comment that had really nothing to do with what the post was. So hey, whatever. Maybe there's some randomness still going on there, but it's not quite as bad as the hellscape formerly known as Twitter. So, follow us on everything. Other than that, make sure, please leave us reviews if you haven't done so already, because that does really well for the algorithm. However you can support us in your algorithm locally. Tell people, tell your friends, tell them if you enjoyed our show, because we're doing pretty well. We passed, last month we were over 1,000 monthly listens, which that was wonderful. Yay! Good job us. Yay.
It's all going to go downhill after they hear us talk
and I would like to say that if
Prolapsed.
If you didn't like this episode, don't worry, we'll be better next week, we promise.
Or we'll just continue our downward trend of finding new ways to embarrass ourselves in public. But yeah, it was funny, even when the 1,000 listen thing, it was 1150, and I was like, it sounds really awkward to say over 1,100, or it was 12 something, but I was like, that just doesn't sound the same. So I had to cut out a couple hundred people or a couple hundred streams in order to say that. So I'm now for the record.
Wow, anyways, humble brag.
Hey, when you're small potatoes like we are, every little bit we can get helps. So please help us. Help us.
Yeah, spread the word. Tell your friends about. Tell your friends about me.
Or you'll get visited by a couple of ghosts that will tell you all about the people that you're going to kill by not listening to our podcast.
And talk about Muppet porn. And
yeah.
Batman will break your legs.
All right, so
Merry Christmas.
For Screen Share and Chill, I'm Kelly.
I'm Keith.
I don't think I want to be known as Jamie anymore.
Hey, you know what? Merry Christmas, y'all. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. Whatever you celebrate. Hopefully you're doing it wonderfully and having a great time. Yeah, and try, if you can, don't fuck any chickens.
If you can.
I feel strange, but also good.
Excuse me, Commander. If you don't stop this, I'm going to call the police. You go ahead. Go!